The south coast of Western Australia is a remote and relatively unknown expansive stretch of coastline. Located in the far southeast lies the Recherche Archipelago. Comprising of more than 120 islands and 1,200 islets within the cool, temperate Southern Ocean waters, the Recherche harbours an amazing variety of life. The Recherche has a rich seafaring history that was centred around sealing and whaling, and remnants of this bygone era are still visible today, both on the islands and the adjacent coastline. But long before the Europeans set foot, traditional people roamed this land, adequately sustained from the harsh landscape, and the Recherche contains a unique record of their prolonged presence. Today, their descendants are reconnecting to both the ancient and recent past by conducting a cultural, community-driven, systematic assessment of the heritage, history and ecology of the islands, in partnership with specialists in land care, archaeology and geology. The Gabbie Kylie Foundation has been set up under the auspices of the National Trust to provide opportunities for Indigenous people to re-establish connections with country that is their ancestors' homelands. This will allow traditional owners to oversee and manage a wide-ranging research program into the culture, heritage and natural values of the South Coast region of Western Australia. The first of several field trips commenced in early 2009, when eager participants arrived from around the globe to take part in the inaugural Gabbie Kylie Applied Heritage Management Field School. The 4-week field school provided students with a unique opportunity to gain practical experience in a range of archaeological techniques, while discovering the unique heritage and ecological values of southwestern Australia. The field school culminated in a 6-day archaeological survey of the Recherche Archipelago on board the STS Lewin II. Surveys at New Island Bay, Ben Island, Mondrain Island, Woody Island and Middle Island revealed a complex pattern of human history and use. The terrain is rugged but spectacular, and a great deal of new data was recorded.
Sand over here, which is the beach dune system. Now it's young, it's the last 10,000 years, we call that Holocene.
The information collected includes stone artefact distributions, patterns of human movement and use of an ancient coastal environment, the formation of the lakes and dunes of Middle Island, and models of sea level change and island formation.
The islands of the Recherche Archipelago are granite islands. Crystalline rocks formed quite deep in the crust as much as 1,300 million years ago. At this time, Australia was part of a great southland called Gondwana, and it wasn't until much later, about 70 million years ago, that the last of these Gondwana fragments broke away and drifted apart. And that fragmentation led to the separation of Australia and Antarctica, which we see here, with the formation of the Southern Ocean and the southern continental shelf of Australia, along with the Recherche Archipelago.
These islands that lie quiet and isolated today were once the prominent hills on a massive coastal plain that stretched southward for more than 60 kilometres. As the planet slowly warmed at the end of the last ice age, between 10 and 6,000 years ago, the inevitable rising seas eventually flooded the coastal plain that was dotted with rivers, creeks and woodlands, once occupied by the ancestors of the Esperance traditional owners. Evidence of this early occupation lies scattered across the islands. A number of archaeological sites contain stone artefacts, lizard traps and nama holes. Archaeologists have documented a number of key locations, demonstrating patterns of human settlement of these areas more than 5,000 years ago. The researchers are developing a model depicting the human responses to these climatic changes, developed by integrating this survey data with sea floor mapping. Ultimately, the information will not only provide a greater understanding of the ancient history and landscapes of the archipelago, but will assist in the development of more effective management processes in the future. When the traditional owners eventually abandoned the islands, they lay uninhabited for several thousand years, until a new chapter of exploration and Australia's first maritime industries developed along the Southern Ocean: whaling and sealing. Today, maritime archaeologists carry out research and condition assessment of these islands to protect and manage this history. The Belinda 1824 is one of Western Australia's most significant shipwreck sites, as it relates to the pre-colonial period of sealing in the Southern Ocean. The site was discovered and excavated between 1991 and 92 by a team from the Western Australian Museum.
We're looking for the site of the Belinda, which was found in 1991 by a museum team, and they excavated it in 1989 and 1991. But in those days didn't have a GPS, so just lining up the old photo transits and going to get a GPS of where it was and where it is. Hopefully, if anything's uncovered, it might be sanded up, so I'm not sure until we go and have a look. So we'll just have a bit of a search and hopefully find something, but if not, it's probably good news. It means the site's covered up and well preserved.
The period of exploration and colonisation also represents a sad period in Australian history, as several islands served as prisons for a number of the traditional owner families. Middle Island, the largest island in the archipelago, has been visited frequently since the days of Matthew Flinders, who buried one of his crew here during their historic voyage of discovery in 1803. Initially located by Esperance identity Clive Trevan, team members took the time to revisit this historic site.
I think it's Flinders' bosun. I'm not sure on that, but he was one of the officers. Yeah, and we think that maybe he was buried in his uniform, which was what they did in those days, and at the time we thought a metal detector survey may find the brass plate nearby if it had fallen off the original cross that Flinders would have put here. I assume Flinders would have put a cross here. The other thing is that if the metal detectors were very sensitive and there's not much stray metal in the ground around here, they may be able to detect portions of Douglas' uniform, although I assume Douglas would have been buried at depth. But it's possible we may get some trace of something like that in the ground.
During the latter part of the 19th century, sealers and whalers set up permanent residence on Middle Island to take advantage of the surrounding natural resources. One of these rough and ready sailors became Australia's only known pirate, Black Jack Anderson. He instilled fear in the local community and regularly poached Aboriginal women from the mainland to tend his needs. He was eventually dispatched by members of his own gang. It was rumoured he was buried on a nearby island in a crude, shallow grave. Remote and exposed, the Recherche Archipelago is regularly buffeted by storms driven by Antarctic winds, often making landing on the islands by boat all but impossible.
Because of the winds and the swells, we're finding it difficult to access some of the targeted islands that we had planned to go to. So our option now is to get a helicopter to take us out and land us on.
Having access to the islands by air has opened up a whole new avenue for the team, and preliminary observations have uncovered a multitude of artefacts at otherwise inaccessible and remote sites.
So this is a piece of chert, and chert is derived from limestone, and we're on a granite headland right now, so we sort of know that this material was brought in by people from a distant source. And that source may be underwater right now, we don't really know, or it could be on the mainland. So the material itself is of interest, but it also is the byproduct or the waste material in people making stone tools. So they use this material, this chert, to make all sorts of knives, scrapers, adzes, and what we find is a lot of the waste material in shaping those tools.
It's obvious that people have utilised these islands for thousands of years. The full extent of this activity is still unknown, and much remains to be discovered in the Recherche Archipelago. The holistic, community-based model employed by the Gabbie Kylie Foundation has greatly enhanced the outcomes of the project. The field schools are as unique as the archipelago itself and bring people together from diverse backgrounds to learn and experience new skills while contributing to this ongoing research program. Facilitating the exchange of cultural and technical knowledge, the project has been hugely successful and is helping all who participate to understand the unique values of this amazing location, exploring the very essence of our shared humanity.